I think, okay, great. Thank you so much for the microphones. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name's Todd Garcia, VP of Client Success at Cleverbridge. We've got about 15 years of experience here on the digital commerce space. My team and I focus primarily on retention, strategic growth, and optimization. And I'm joined by Megan Henf. I'll allow her to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Megan Henf, and I lead digital transformation for PTC. For those of you who don't know, PTC is an industrial software company, primarily in the CAD, or computer-aided design, and product lifecycle management space, among other things. PTC is roughly 30 years old, so we have a lot of processes, manual processes in place. And before we fix those, we were looking at AI, and that just didn't make sense for us. So looking forward to this discussion today and how we're navigating that.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. So obviously, we're talking today about how AI won't save a broken sales process. And I know this is an AI conference, so it's kind of like, hey, maybe this is a bit of an anti-AI presentation, but I promise you that's not what this is. The idea here is talking about what the future of AI needs to look like and what you need to do foundationally to make that future as beneficial as possible. So Cleverbridge, coming from 20 years of experience in the digital commerce space, has a lot of things to say about that. And I think one of the key things that we've seen over the past several months is that the AI market itself is becoming incredibly saturated with solutions. And these solutions are there to improve processes, optimize margins, and ideally create a better customer and employee satisfaction score for you. And I think you've met a lot of the people here, you've heard about this. Despite the fact that we are in the early stages of AI, the value of these solutions are real, absolutely. But the crux of what we're talking about today is that that alone is not going to allow you to see the transformational change that you want to see with AI. The usage of AI by itself is not going to fix processes that are already broken. And in fact, as we've seen, AI can sometimes even scale broken processes if not managed properly. And so for Cleverbridge, one of the key things that we've identified and that one of the biggest issues that we've come across is that sales processes, traditional business-to-business sales flows are not as optimized as they could be. And one of the key things that is driving a change within that is actually the customer experience. And this is really exciting because AI needs a foundational element to be built upon in order for it to provide the most value that it can. And we're seeing that actually the industry is shifting in such a way where consumer preference is actually driving some of these core initiatives, where traditional B2B buyers are looking to actually spend more online, engage in a more traditional sort of B2C digital first buying experience. And if you marry that with the actual software provider, PTC in this example, their decision to want to expand faster into new markets at a lower cost, there's a really interesting sort of marriage between the two of those. That all comes down to, I think, the core element of what we're talking about, which is that in order for these companies to see improved margins and manifest sort of the data accessibility, which is not available to you in a traditional multi-tier sales process, you need to consider a digital-first buying experience to create a more optimized internal and external engagement with your customers. And so to talk a little bit more about that, I want to actually turn it over to Megan, and she can give you an idea of what PTC themselves experienced and what brought them down the path that we're talking about today.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. So as I mentioned earlier, PTC is roughly 30 plus years old, and with that, and as well as the size as an enterprise industrial software company, it's very human-led, process-heavy sales cycle, which works. PTC does about $2.75 billion worth of revenue annually. So obviously something's working, but all of a sudden it wasn't. So what we saw is we had high intent customers coming to us wanting to buy a couple licenses, do a quick renewal, add a couple licenses to their stack, and we would say, great, absolutely, can't wait to help you. Let me go get you a quote. and I have to go get an approval, and I have to go get another approval, and what did you need again? Oh, maybe you should go talk to one of our partners. And then the cycle would start all over again. And that obviously is not a great experience for our customers. And so this is really where we started to hone in and say, what are we doing here? How can we better serve these customers? I think Todd's going to talk a little bit about why digital first requires more than just an online checkout, because simply putting the button on our website isn't going to fix the problem. There's a lot that we had to untangle to get there. So yeah, I think you can take that next.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talk about digital first, and it becomes, I guess, almost a buzzword or buzz phrase, is this idea of what does really digital first mean? And there's a lot of solutions out there that allow you to go digital very quickly, right? I mean, Stripe gives you a couple lines of code and suddenly you're selling online. But the reality is that actually doing a digital experience, especially in the international market, is a much more complicated and potentially risky affair. So you can kind of see here your traditional iceberg, where you've got the tip of the iceberg and all the other work that you do behind it, is we've got taxes, we've got VAT, we've got compliance, we've got PCI management, regulatory management, and there's a lot that can go into it. And all of this is also data points that your company, you need to manage, or you can leverage to be able to optimize certain experiences. And so we see that if you're not taking a foundational and future-facing look of how to sell digitally to your customers, you're going to be missing out on the long-term solution. So again, fast is not always better. And the key thing here is for you to identify a solution that you can actually grow with. And when I say solution, I want to be very clear, I'm not just talking about technology. I think solution here is the marriage or the coupling of technology, services, whether that be internal and external, and then also expertise. So the idea is that you either need to build this and maintain it, or find a partner that can support you in this. And the more that you do, the more that you take in internally, and I mentioned this earlier, is this sort of foundational data and margin optimization that you're getting, the more that you can leverage that data to take advantage of the future of agentic commerce. There is AI that exists today with regards to B2B buying, fraud management, payment optimization, but the future of agentic commerce is kind of unknown at this stage. We don't know how it's going to interact with B2B. But we do know that if you don't have the data, if you don't have access to those customers, if you're not taking all of this as part of the broader picture, you could theoretically be missing out in an area to optimize and expand. And I think one of the key things here when you talk about the difficulties that PTC ran into is talking about how do you take a step back. And I want to turn that over to you, Megan, to talk about what you did there.
Sure. And to hit maybe briefly on the last iceberg slide, we also went through should we just build this ourselves and do it internally, which, I mean, was sort of a non-starter for me, but we had to entertain the conversation. But the amount of additional people we would have to hire to maintain our own in-house built processes was just unfathomable. So going with a provider like Cleverbridge really helped us to scale quickly. So when we took a step back and looked at what we were even dealing with, there was a cohort of customers who we wanted to target for digital specific sales motion. And so segmenting our customers was really where we had to start. And that doesn't mean that only those customers are who can transact with us online, but that's who we want to go after, because there's a segment for them, there's a segment that should be serviced by our partners, and there's a segment that should be serviced by direct. And those are not hard lines, they're pretty soft, but we started from the basics, and we're still, I'd say, at the basics of just trying to get a baseline for what digital commerce looks like at PTC. I think we're almost a year into our journey, I'd say, and starting out with that simplification process has helped us a lot. The structure, automation, and AI is where our partnership with Cleverbridge came into play. And being able to have one list price that we're using for our customers, being able to unify our quoting and payment at the sort of snap of fingers was great for us. We also were able to remove a lot of friction that the customer was experiencing with self-service portal within Cleverbridge, as well as automated renewals. And so it's a one-stop shop for that customer that's like, I just need one license. Please let me buy a license from you. we have that now, which has been really great for us. And then I think we're now getting to the point where we are able to scale and build repeatable processes beyond that. We have, through Cleverbridge, payment recovery and fraud screening, which we can show on the next slide in terms of the what it looks like, and then renewal triggers as well as recommendation models for our additional products.
Yeah. Just to sort of alluding really briefly to what Megan was mentioning, this is the PTC checkout where you can go online, purchase a PTC license, give your details, understand what you're getting, sign up for a subscription model. Cleverbridge then supports multiple currencies, multiple payment methods, the actual life cycle of that customer as well. And then after the fact, you have the ongoing engagement with those customers, trying to automate that experience, identify when is the upsell potential, when is the cross-sell potential, do they need additional licenses, are we managing consumption billing to a certain degree? So there's a number of things that come into it. And again, we keep coming back to this idea, the more data that you own for these consumers, the easier it is for you to optimize and automate that experience. And so we're really excited ourselves at Cleverbridge to kind of see how the world will change with agentic commerce, specifically in that enterprise space, because the more that we learn, the more that we're experiencing, we're bringing these things to market for our core clients. Before we sort of get to the Q&A, though, I think it's important just to talk about what PTC has learned and what they've seen.
So I'll hit on some of our big metrics. I'd say, like I said, we're coming up on a year of having this live, and we've seen a 25% growth in year over year for e-commerce specifically. We have automated renewals now through our digital means, which is, like I said, we didn't have that before. And then faster quote to cash. So all of these things have been material for our improvements in this space and meeting the customer where they're at and what they need. But I'd say even more importantly are some of our lessons learned. And the first two go hand in hand, and that's really about sort of the organizational change management of it all. We did a lot around helping our partners and our sellers to understand that this is additive. We're not trying to take anything away from this. And so I don't want to undersell how important that was, the organizational change management of it all. Additionally, making sure the incentives were aligned for both our direct sellers and our partners. And so we have things like a partner referral program in which they're able to get commissions through our digital sales motions as well. And then lastly, you can't automate ambiguity. We have to be really focused about what we were going after and what portion of our customers this made sense for.
So really, it boils down to what we've identified as this digital transformation checklist. And I think Megan pointed out a couple of key things here. Your stakeholders, your incentivization, it really does come down to change management. You have to know what you want to accomplish in the long term, and then step-by-step approach the process to be able to take advantage of what you're laying in front of you. I think from our side, we think it's fixing your data. That's a key aspect of this. Identifying what are the KPIs internally as well. I think this is just sort of the business case side of this. One of the best opportunities with this is margin enhancement. It's increasing your margins by reducing complexity and multiple layer engagement. And so really understanding what do you want to see, what defines success, and then tracking that throughout the life cycle of all of this. And then again, the concept of applying AI after you've done this is important. There are opportunities for AI throughout this entire process. As I mentioned, fraud management, payment optimization, potentially even some of the people here are selling AI-driven SDRs, BDRs. These are all value propositions that can feed really nicely into a digital-first buying experience.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, no, I think for me, I feel like we're kind of just at the beginning of this journey in terms of taking this and scaling it with additional AI. So it's been really helpful to sit in some of these additional sessions to see where some of this can sort of plug and play. But I agree. I think that Cleverbridge has been a great partner in all of this and a thought leader. But I don't want to underscore the organizational change management aspect of it as well.
Absolutely. With that in mind, thank you so much for hearing us out. We appreciate you sitting, but we have some time, so we'd love to answer any questions that come up. If you'd like to ask Megan or myself anything, please feel free to do so. I don't know if there's a microphone for the questions.
Over there.
Oh, yeah, great, thank you.
Does that work?
I don't know, I don't hear it.
Okay, so my question is, you say 83% of enterprise buyers are happy to go digital first. Megan, the segments that you tested this with, were they enterprise buyers or was it the lower end?
It's a combination of both. So I would say we're targeting the lower end, but we have enterprise buyers that are also interested. It's all about what makes sense for the customer, because what we see at PTC, as you imagine, our enterprise buyers tend to have more complex needs. And so we are purposefully not putting some of those offerings on our our web store, because we want to have a conversation about that, because there's potentially more opportunity there. That being said, I do see a future in which we would work in tandem with an online buying motion as part of those conversations.
And so how do you triage that process? So how do you use AI to know, okay, this now needs to go to enterprise, needs to be dealt with by an enterprise?
Yeah, it's through our prospecting motions primarily. I think even today we've seen a couple enterprise customers come through, and we flag those for our AEs to say, hey, FYI, they just bought a license of our training on the store. And so that's less of a concern. When we start to see them buying other things, we're like, this may not make sense. You may be getting better terms if you go direct. So it's not a black and white thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Hi, I had a question. Did you experience any cannibalization in your revenue doing this? Did you see any cases where that persona previously would have paid a larger fee, and now because they went digital, it ended up becoming a small deal for you?
No, in fact, we're looking at transitioning some of our direct renewals to e-commerce, and our average difference from list price is basically 0%. So meaning there are people that are paying more, and there's people that are paying significantly less because they haven't been brought up to list for whatever reason. And so this is almost a forcing mechanism to get everyone at sort of parity.
I think while we're waiting for another question, if there's one comment around the 83%, we also see that there's some statistics on what people are willing to pay for online. And I think most people are saying 50K and below is that nice threshold right now. But Cleverbridge works with a number of enterprise businesses, and we do see 100K and plus transactions through our system, because it's not just credit card, right? There's other payment methods that exist that are more enterprise focused, and those are supported by some of these digital first models.
I also think that's a larger cultural shift we're just seeing to change.
Yeah.
I mean, you can imagine your average engineer is probably not super gung-ho not to talk to someone, but then the people that are, I would say, more digitally inclined don't want to talk to someone. So you're seeing a mix of both.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for the presentation. So I heard a lot about direct customers. How do you handle the channel partners? And are they part of this program?
They are, yes. Our channel partners are part of this in two different ways. The first is as a referral partner. So basically, as an affiliate, they have links that they can use to send to customers who would otherwise not be particularly valuable to them from a growth perspective. And they can get a one-time commission if they send that to customer to the store and the customer purchases. And then the other part is we're transitioning some of the lower value renewals partner renewals to the store. And that's done through an opt-in program. The customer has the choice at the end of the day as to how they want to work with PTC. If they want to go through the partner, that's fine. But we're trying to offload that low value, high churn population to e-commerce.
Yeah. I love it's about customer choice, right? It's customer preference, meeting them where they want to buy. And again, that requires a more complex ecosystem to be able to differ from a traditional model to a digital first model and back again. And so you have to have, again, the solution that we talked about earlier is not necessarily an individual partner, but also understanding that it's more than just technology. It's about the entire experience and expertise that flows into that as well. I think we have time for one or two more questions if there are any.
Hi, so I have a maybe two-part question. I'm curious if before launching your digital first model, you had your pricing available on your website, and if not, then what was that change management, especially for the legacy customers that you had? What were some of those steps to kind of transition them into the new?
Yeah, I have lots of thoughts around this. So first off, PTC had not published our list price, but some of our partners had their own e-stores. Whether or not they were actually working, I couldn't tell you, but our prices were out there. If someone wanted to go find it, they could. So it already existed. Now, I started to talk to the GMs of our various products, and they were very scared about putting the list price out. And ultimately, the enterprise customers were going to go predominantly through this motion, so those bigger deals are reserved for direct. And so that's kind of where how we made them more comfortable with it. If they were going to come and complain about what the value is on the store versus what they were getting, then we would have to have a conversation with them about it. So there's some gray there. But yeah, that's how we handled it. Well, thank you.
Thank you. And if you were at the Cleverbridge booth, Megan will be around at the event. So if you have any further questions, please feel free to come up to myself, Megan, or any member of the Cleverbridge team. We're happy to talk about it further.
Yep. Thank you all.
All right. Enjoy the conference.